You're both great. I'm not going to argue about the percentages, but would you consider going half each in it? Because you've both got something to bring to the table.
I think you're right. Between us, we have different skill sets in different areas, but both with the same consumer focus. So I'd be willing to do that.
Tej?
We both have areas that could complement in the business, so I'm happy to share.
We've got a deal.
Fantastic.
Great.
That's great.
Excellent.
Well done.
Very exciting.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Great. So today we welcome a very, very special guest on the Manufacturing Leaders podcast. It's our first ever Dragon's Den contestant and a successful one of that. So Giles is the founder of OGEL. He actually got investment of the day for Northeast's very own manufacturing queen, Sara Davies, who also teamed up with Tej Lalvani. OGEL are the UK's most premium and innovative garden room manufacturers. And I must say, Gary, I remember that episode fondly. I actually watched it back the other day, but I remember watching it. And I remember thinking the products are great. I looked on the website this morning, and I'm going to try and beg my wife to get one because they're absolutely class. So, but look, thank you for coming on. Massive, huge welcome. I always kick the podcast off initially, I guess, quite formally with the same sort of question, which I'll ask you if you don't mind. What does it mean to you to be a leader?
To be a leader? What does it mean to be a leader? It means pressure. That's one thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't just
there's a lot of responsibility. Yeah, there's a lot of that, which is quite tough sometimes. I think what it is, there's an inbuilt fear of failure that you can't sort of exude to the sort of the exterior world. It's a lot of it's in your head a little bit. There's a lot of imposter syndrome that goes on, that sort of thing. Sort of, should I be here? Sort of, do I have the skills to do this? Yeah. Which is quite healthy because sort of without that doubt, that self-doubt, then it's
the drive.
As long as it doesn't cripple you, then that's what that. So a leader means being internally frightened, externally exuberant.
You know what it is? This is the reason why I like to do these podcasts, because it's the type of stuff that I absolutely resonate with completely, but it's almost not talked about because, like you say, as a leader, you've kind of got to be the bulletproof one, the one that sees no fear. But I completely resonate. I mean, I not that I'm completely driven off fear, but you do. It's the fear of failure, and actually, I think as the bigger or better your business gets, the scarier of that collapsing one day that becomes, isn't it? I think
exactly,
it rises. I think you almost think you get this step that you plan for, you're going to be absolutely fine, and you're going to have no worries. To some extent, they get bigger because you think it's a bigger fall from grace now, isn't it? It's a tough one.
Yeah. So the way I sort of try to sort of describe it is, in your head, it's like playing Jenga. You take more bit to grow the business up, whereas in reality, it's not like Jenga. The reality is, you are actually, if you do it half correctly, you're building a pyramid.
Yeah, absolutely. Foundations there as well.
But in your head, it feels like you're playing Jenga.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely resonate with that, and I'm glad you said that. So look, I'd be keen to take it back actually, because as I said before, we've never met and spoken, which I'm really looking forward to. And normally LinkedIn has a good idea of where people have come from and whatnot. Yours is nicely mysterious, which I'm I'm looking forward to going with the journey. So obviously you're a Teesside lad. If you don't mind taking me back to, not day one, but the early days of Gary Giles. So what was that like?
Well, so I come from a family of builders, and swore that I would never get in the building trade, and I managed to sort of almost stay with. My father had his own company. I helped them a little bit, sort of while they're still at school, like on building sites, that sort of thing, And I went off to do a completely different job. I went off to be an accountant, and that's what I am. I'm a sort of a chartered accountant. That is my training.
Interesting.
So people sort of say, well, how the hell did you end up getting into sort of like building stuff, and how I sort of describe it is sort of I spent all these years sort of working in quite often I've been systems accountant, I've been FDs, I've been FCs, I've done everything in a financial sort of role. But most jobs I've ended up sort of doing, I've ended up being like sort of the guy. It tends to sort of fall to the accountants tend to sort of, because everything sort of in a for-profit company works around money.
Yeah, of course.
So you tend to see everything goes through the finance department. So you tend to have a good handle on how the company works, because where we're spending money is normally the key question. How we making money is well, how we make money and how we spend money are the two sort of key questions in most businesses. So when all said and done. So from that end, doing a lot of systems work, ERP work, MRP work, that sort of thing. Getting to learn ways to learn the company. And go, okay, well, how do we streamline this? How do we make it better? So it's those skills that I'm starting to use now more that we've invented the product. So that's where I was up till. I'll give you the exact date and time. That was up till Wednesday, February the 4th, 2015 at 3:45 in the afternoon, and that's when my life changed. I can tell you exactly to the minute when my life changed. And what it was is, I used to work for a company down in Thirsk called Weatherby Group, who manufacture paints and renders. They sort of came back. Sort of the MD came back from a visit to a manufacturer in Germany to buy a machine that basically sort of took render for walls and put it into polypropylene bags. And as an aside joke, it was like, sort of, well, if all else fails, we can always make sandbags, reusable sandbags. Yeah. So that's quite a good idea, that, And then it's this whole idea of like, sort of, well, how do you build walls? Because at the time there was a lot of flooding going on. It had been February, and it sort of, it just struck something in my head. Sort of, can I invent a better flood defence? Yeah. And from that kernel of an idea came OGEL. It was like sort of how I invent a flood defence, and then we sort of got the system to work as a flood defence. Then we realised we put corners on it, and when you put corners on something, it means you can build an enclosure. And then if you can put a roof on the floor, and then you built a room, and that's where it came from. Yeah, sort of. So that's the
proper eureka moment, that then for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an absolute eureka moment. Sort of, it was like, so how do you? But what it was sort of. I often described it. It's a bit like Slumdog Millionaire. If you've ever seen that film.
Yeah, great.
Sort of where points and sort of to solve the overall and win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. All the solutions came from different parts of his life, just by pure fluke. Things are lined up, So the fact that my dad was a builder, and the fact that I used to work on building sites.
Yeah. All there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was all there. It was like sort of, I know how to find some of these solutions, And in fact, one of them, which is the key one, and what we have our patents on, is I can remember vividly being on a building site when you got to remember this is the early 70s. Yeah. So I'm 7 or 8 year old and sitting down with the guys. So obviously I was like carrying bricks, because every summer holidays I was made to work. That's just how it was.
Yeah.
And I can remember being sort of sitting down and watching the builders on a tea break, having built this gable end to a wall, obviously outside of the house. And I can say to the guy, say, well, sort of, all the builders, why don't the bricks on the top crush the bricks on the bottom? This is
just thinking about it, yeah.
And all these bricklayers and labourers going, we don't know, Yeah. And then, long story short, it's all to do with sort of the fact that you use obviously the offsetting of the bricks and everything else, and how the weight is displaced and brought to the ground. It was so all of a sudden it was weight displacement, and it was like sort of, well. And I always remember something that my dad said to me, which was really, really key. He said there's only two basic problems to solve in building: how you join the same shape, vertically and horizontally. Yeah. Well, the thing is, horizontally is easy. Sort of like everybody works in blocks, be it brick, be it Lego, be it whatever. Up and down's easy. Side to side's the hard bit. Yeah. And that's what we solved with our L shapes.
Great, isn't it? There's so much stuff to unpack there, which if I'm interested, and I'll probably come back to. I mean, I think initially it was. When did you realise? I mean, the county thing, like you say, the massive influence with construction, working on construction site this summer, that probably would have been the natural progression for you to go into. I'm sure your dad can help to do so. the accounts thing. I mean, was numbers something that early on you're interested in, or what was the
No,
no?
that's the daft thing. Sort of, I knew I didn't want to work on a building site.
Yeah.
And I knew English, arts, that sort of thing. I'm a musician, that sort of thing. So that's more my bag, you know.
Yeah.
I'm quite good. I'm quite good at numbers. I wouldn't sort of claim to be sort of Stephen Hawking or anything of that sort of nature, but I'm not bad, you know.
Yeah.
And then what it was, it'd be about, I finished sixth form college, and my mum said, "Well, what are you going to do?" You know, I was like, "Well, I don't know." You know, sort of, and this friend of the family sort of said, "Well, why don't you just do this foundation course in accountancy at Teesside Polytechnic, as it was back in those days."
Yeah.
So did that, and then went to Newcastle Poly, as it was back in those days. It's now University of Northumbria, and then sort of did my sort of senior examinations, sort of management accounts examinations, and then it moved on from there. Then it's get a job, and then all of a sudden, and that's another thing which happened quite quickly. Sort of, I joined this company in I joined what was Stately Quarry Products, which is now part of Lafarge.
Yep.
Back in 1988, so I'll be 21 years old, 22 years old possibly, and they just got this 386 computer in. You know, this sort of and the accountants were still working, not quite on ledgers, but not a million miles away from it.
Yeah.
And I can remember when the boss was coming over with these pipe, sort of saying, "Oh, computers, oh,
Yeah, UFO, yeah.
you're young, you have a go at this," you know. And what it did was it had like it had Kalamazoo, which is obviously is a very old, very basic spreadsheet package, but it had one of the earlier versions of what was Lotus 123.
Yep.
Sort of spreadsheets and sort of package, which then obviously sort of developed, and it changed a little bit and became, and then Microsoft did Microsoft Word and Excel, that sort of thing, you know. But all the basic skills I learned from doing spreadsheets and systems from this 386 computer, which is, you know, sort of there's probably sort of 100 times more power in that phone than there is in that computer.
But back in the day,
it cost like $3 grand. $3 grand for the computer. And I was the only one who could work it.
Yeah, you get a house back there, yeah. But amazing.
But that led into systems work, you know, sort of, and then all of a sudden I ended up sort of becoming systems accountants at various companies, and moving in that sort of direction, really, you know.
And like you say, a huge advantage, because 100%, I think a number of, you know, you see the stats, things 80% of businesses in the first 5 years fail, first startups. I'd imagine a lot of those is because they've not looked after the cash. There's not the cash forecast. And, you know, and the early days we found that trap, you know, I thought if you're naturally not from that sort of background, you're entrepreneurial, you're just excited about the building, the progression side, but you take your eye off the ball with the cash. Cash is king, and you're done.
Cash is king. It's king. It's king, queen, jack and ace.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Doesn't matter how good your business is or how good your plan is. If you haven't got any cash, you're out. So no, I bet it's a huge advantage. And I love the fact that, like you say, you probably family didn't think that influenced you at all until your dad was over the moon when you suddenly got into construction, and then.
Yeah, well, it's quite weird in a way, because obviously sort of unfortunately my dad died before we sort of it's seen all the prototypes that we've been doing, and unfortunately sort of it's one of my sort of big regrets in life. I don't do regrets as a rule, but one of the big ones is the fact that I didn't get to hand the first piece of profile in his hand, you know. But it's all sort of because he died very suddenly, and but yeah, that was the thing. It was, you know, sort of all of a sudden you're in construction, you know. So but I managed to sort of tell him, you know, the influence that he'd had in developing this product, you know. It's
and look, my dad died a couple of years ago suddenly as well, just out of the blue, you know, picked the phone one day and he was done. And I think I can resonate with massively, because your why becomes even bigger to some extent, you know. Things happen, you know. We had a great day yesterday, we had a big thing happen, and you're still the person I like to pick up the phone to, but to some extent, however hard that is, it drives you on to build a bigger business.
Yes,
stuff you would have said, because I think that, you know, just despite the fact people aren't here, they're still massive influence on your life, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he's still there. He's still there on the wall, you know.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's brilliant, excellent stuff, and fantastic. And I love that journey of how it came about. And you almost must have had you must have had something built into you from the early days, like you say, to go on the construction site and even think about why is that how it is, instead of just people coming on and doing the job. That must have been something built in you to just be curious, I guess, because that curiosity has led to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny because although I've got down the accountancy I've got quite an engineering mindset. You know, I just happen to have applied it to systems.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't claim to be sort of. I've got a natural affinity to how's that going to work? How's that going to build? How do we do that? You know, it's you know, sort of, it's solving problems. Just I've been solving physical problems.
Yeah.
How do you build a wall? How do you build a roof? How do you build a floor? How do you do these things in plastic, which nobody's really done before?
Absolutely, exactly, and that's it. You've got no book to read that, because you're obviously, you make it yourself, which is. And how did the I'm a big Dragon's Den fan, right? I think I've probably watched every single one. So how did that come about? Out of interest, what was the story there?
Yeah, once again, that's another strange one, insofar as I've applied for a couple of times for Dragon's Den. We're still developing the product. We need a basic website up there to sort of say this is how it's progressing.
You've got the product stage, you've got the idea, you've got the prototypes.
We weren't manufacturing any of that sort of nature. We're just trying to hold the product, but there was interest out there sort of in what we were doing. So we just had a little website. And then I applied for, I wasn't going to do it. In fact, there's the Great British Entrepreneur competition.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and you got to bear in mind, sort of this point in time, I applied for various applications of that sort of nature, be it competitions, be it grants, that sort of thing. I'd applied to 47 different applications.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was only the second one that had been a positive thing.
Really? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I wasn't even going to do it. It was like sort of, the deadline was it was a Friday night, just how it happened to fall time wise. And I went, okay, I'll because it was during the first lockdown between the March April around that sort of time. And I thought, well, I can't go to the pub, so I may as well just
one more. Yeah.
Application, I applied, and I got shortlisted for the District of the Year award, which is great. Everything else came through. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then from that, we then got an email which went into my spam mail. So,
really?
Yeah.
There's a lesson there, isn't there?
Yeah, there was a lesson here from the BBC.
Yeah.
And normally I don't even look at my spam mail. Just pure fluke. I just went, BBC. Yeah. Wow. So the BBC had seen this Great British Entrepreneur thing, and then sort of said, "Would you be interested in auditioning for the program?" Which we did, and they loved what we did, and that's how we ended up on TV.
It was amazing, because what is, most people get a real hard time on that show, even the ones that get investment, and there was some scrutiny there, wasn't there? But to some extent, particularly with Sara Davies, who she loved it from the off, scrutinized the documentation, and was straight in. So I mean, was that it must have felt like a dream, that scenario, is it?
Yeah, well, I tell you what, well, I mean, sort of, to give you some of the behind the scenes sort of stuff, if you like, sort of, obviously sort of what you start seeing that 10-15 minutes on TV, that's it was just short of 2 hours of filming,
So I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard it takes a lot longer.
Straight, there's no like stopping for camera angles and that sort of thing. It's just full on for 2 hours.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, sort of. Yeah. There's a couple times there's time out people got a quick drink of water or whatever, but generally speaking, there's crack on, and it's full on.
It is, yeah. Intense.
And we were told some little stories before, because we knew somebody had been on beforehand. It gives a little bit of the background on it, if you like, So we knew a few little bits and bobs as to how things would possibly progress, But how it sort of shows on the TV, it's completely different to how it happened in reality. So we went in there, and then I think Tej Lalvani had asked some questions, and I went to Peter Jones. Now, bear in mind, on TV you can see two sides of the building.
Yeah.
Because of COVID and everything else, the dragons were all spread like 2 meters apart.
Yeah.
So where Peter Jones was sat, he was actually looking at the side of the building where we'd been making notes on it, and it wasn't finished. It was just like and he just looked at it and he went, So he was getting it what we were doing, but he went, it said from where I am, looks a bit shit. I thought, that's not a good start. So
That's not a good start, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an opinion,
Uphill from here, isn't it?
from where he was, he wouldn't be able to see the whole building, you know.
Yeah.
But he was at the end. He was very, very complimentary. And then it did like a round of questioning, all 5 of them. And then it came back to Tej Lalvani, and we were told that normally, sort of, if they dislike you, you get savage, and you're out of there within 45 minutes. And
okay, right.
Oh yeah.
No point, no wasting time.
Just really you get ripped to pieces, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why sort of those sort of things tend to be on the very small clips that they show on, like in between sort of thing, you know. So if they like you, sort of, you won't get an offer within the first. It'll be at least an hour before you receive some sort of offer.
Yeah,
you know.
Right, interesting.
So doing the first round of questioning, so it must be about 25 minutes, half an hour in.
Yeah.
And he's Tej Lalvani. So he asked a few more questions. He went, "I've heard enough. I'm going to make you an offer."
Really?
Yeah. So what appears on TV is him offering last.
Yeah.
First,
right.
First half an hour, and then it's all cut differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Nah, it's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, the people that we thought would go for it would be something like Debbie Meaden with being waste plastic.
Yes, well, that's the obvious, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And she said, "We don't think you get enough waste polystyrene."
I didn't think she think that potentially that as an environment industry we will change the way we recycle, so people won't do that.
Yeah, what I tried to explain to her at the time, which she'd made a decision to go, and see, I'm actually in one of our buildings now. You see,
there you go, representing. Yeah,
but a lot of our material is waste fridges. Okay. Yeah, foundations, waste coat hangers. So unless you find it, because polystyrene, which is what this actually is our core material. Yeah. Everybody thinks it's the white flaky stuff. This isn't. It's solid.
Yeah.
You know, sort of, there's no better insulator than for fridges and freezers and that sort of thing than polystyrene. Yeah. So unless you can find another way of insulating fridges, it's the wall.
Absolutely fine. Yeah.
You're gonna have sort of, but everybody thinks of the white flaky stuff, which in reality is, you know, sort of what you think is white expanded polystyrene. It's only 5% polystyrene, 95% air.
Oh, really? Right. Okay.
So in volume terms, it only accounts for, it's about 45% of polystyrene production. All the rest is fridges and freezers and all the uses, car parts. That's what it gets used for. So yes, whilst the packaging bit might disappear, and even that I'm not convinced about either. Funnily enough, I don't think packaging's because it's such a fast process to manufacture it and expand polystyrene. They've been trying to do things with mushrooms and all sorts of other options.
Long way off that.
It's a long way away, you know. Sort of, well, even using it's called mycelium. It's like they grow the packaging almost. You know, it's still a long way from commercial production.
Yeah, absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
But
a massive.
But yeah, but it's really weird. Yeah, but so get back on point a little bit. I'm sort of talking a bit too much here.
No.
Yeah, but she went, "No, I'm out." So she went out, and then I went to Sara Davies, and she went, "I love it." Yeah. Sort of, I'm in. Yeah. You know, so they all went out on the TV. It was completely different how it in real life,
isn't it? Yeah,
really, really weird. Sort of. I mean, we had an offer after half an hour.
Yeah, all right. So you knew you had won the bag. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had an offer close to what we wanted anyway after half an hour. So it was almost like, well, that's in the bag now. So everything else was calmed down a little bit.
And had you had a conversation before you went on to go, look, this is the max we can go to? Do you know what I mean? You had that sort of thought process, or?
Sort of, yes. Yeah. The max we were said was 15%. So the fact that 10%.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, lowball them.
We'll sort of take that, you know.
Nice.
So more than happy with that, you know.
I think, in my opinion, watching it, the ones that they're really, really sure about, then they don't try and get a particularly high percentage. Do you know what I mean? I think the ones that they're a bit unsure about, they'll almost go, I want 30-40%. But it was quite obvious that they were straight in. They didn't want to mess around, which is testament to the product and how you pitched it.
I think it was the production. It was the fact that we had the patents.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You know, which is a key thing. Obviously, our patents cover us for UK, Europe, USA, China.
Yeah,
you know,
Was there quite a lot of, I presume there's quite a lot of scrutiny after, documentation wise, to make sure before they give you a big chunk of wedge?
Yeah, so I can't really sort of go into too much on the backside of it, really, you know. But yeah, there's a large sort of part of due diligence that takes place.
It has to be, doesn't it? Yeah, because it's
sort of, as to how that sort of moves forward, and obviously they all have their own teams that work in the background, if you like, you know.
Amazing to get Tej and Sara Davies, and nice to get someone local as well, I guess, with Sara, knowing the region as well, which is a big help.
Just up the road from me, you know. So yeah,
exactly. There you go. And actually, it's a big one. But my target for 2023 is actually to get Sara on this podcast. So I think it'd be nice, because I think, you know, it's for a couple of reasons, I guess. I love the Northeast, and I love manufacturing, obviously, and I think, in actual fact, there needs to be more women senior female managers and leaders in manufacturing. There's not enough. So I'm
well, I mean, that's the thing I love about Sara's backstory, is the fact that, you know, sort of really sort of her and her dad sort of like invented this enveloper, you know, sort of
that's amazing.
I mean, sort of, I don't want to sort of disparage software developers and everything else, but software, and that's great, you know, sort of, and it does change the world.
Yeah, it's not as creative.
Yeah, sort of, there's something about something tactile like that you can pick, touch, and feel.
Yeah,
you know, that turns me a bit more, you know, and the fact that's what you did with the enveloper now with Crafter's Companion and that sort of thing. It's you know, it's touchy feely things, you know, sort of. You know, and the whole Crafter's Companion thing, where you go, I mean, obviously sort of during lockdown, people doing things.
Absolutely. Yeah, brought them together.
I mean, that's what we found when we sort of build our buildings. It's like sort of, there's something about starting with nothing there and then ending in this. There's a physical building there. There's something about that which is quite cathartic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what about life sort of after then, if you like? Then, I mean, obviously, I guess that was almost the day one of the new business, I imagine, in terms of strategy wise.
Pretty much. I mean, we used that to launch a crowdfunding campaign. Okay. So I'm a big fan of that sort of model.
Yeah.
You know, sort of rather than have some large investors who
want blood,
have skin in the game. I mean, we have 700 investors from 43 countries.
Brilliant.
You know, which I love. You know, so that's really cool. I quite enjoy that. You know, because we have this tribe of people who, some of which buy the pods. Some of which want to sort of bring it to their various territories. Some are just interested in just being invested and just being part of the journey.
Like a little community, isn't it? I guess for that. Which is brilliant.
I like that. You know, sort of. I'm a big fan of Brewdog and the way they.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable what they've done. Exact same way. The community they've built up is phenomenal, isn't it? Unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so when you think about it, sort of, you know, sort of they went for Dragons Den and got turned down.
I imagine that's a pretty big regret for a few of the Dragons at the time.
You know, sort of, that's the whole thing, because, you know, sort of, you know, I mean, I do read the sort of, when I was younger, I used to read a lot of business books. And I read sort of what's his book, Business for Punks. Which is,
I haven't actually read that one, but I've heard it's good. Yeah,
it's a really good book.
It's a good book.
One of these books where if someone says, I want to start a business, I don't know nothing about it.
Read that.
Give them that book.
Nice.
It's really good. Because it's stories about Brewdog and stories about sort of how they did things, you know, and the mistake that they made, you know. You know, and a big thing that sort of pointed out is, you know, sort of, you know, you know, use your smallness to your advantage, you know.
Absolutely.
To a certain degree, and be you know, try and be creative. I mean, sort of a lot of their marketing ideas were very, very cheap ideas. Like, you know, sort of they wanted to find pubs in Scotland that could sell in a third of a pint. So they sort of petitioned Parliament with a dwarf. You know, it's got them on the news.
So they can do what they want to do.
You know, so it's those sort of great little marketing skits, marketing ideas. I just love that sort of thing, you know. That we try to use that, try to sort of be, you know, sort of use less traditional ways of doing things. You know, sort of, you know, I love that sort of thing, you know.
Absolutely, and I guess since there is, I mean, in terms of since you're on, and now, I mean, how, you know, we've had difficult times, I guess, in terms of industry wise and environment stuff. How have things been? I mean, have things started to grow business wise, or how's that process been?
I mean, sort of, we're not suffering so far. I mean, we could do with garden rooms. It's that sort of market which, if people are going to sort of cut back,
more people work from home now. You know, the options wise, it's perfect, really, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the sort of thing. So it's things like the work pods, that sort of thing. I mean, sort of a lot of the buildings we've done so far have been home offices.
Yeah.
You know, and the savings from working from home for the company and for the employee are like
commuting, diesel,
really
all
good.
That. Yeah.
You know, but obviously, sort of there's downside to that as well. The fact that, you know, a desk has got to be the right height. The monitor. I mean, my monitor's just here.
Yeah.
You know, sort of. So our pods, we make sure that the monitors go the right height, the desk's the right height, the chair's the right height. So you, from an occupational health perspective, we more than tick those boxes. We make sure all that's done correctly.
Yeah.
So if a company wants to buy a pod, they know that it's all done correct, sort of sockets and everything, all the correct heights to do everything. And we think that's the way it's going to move forward. You know, sort of we already have a number of people who've given up their works offices, sort of whether being like sort of like one man and one woman band type things.
Yeah.
And now just working from the home office, because they go, well, if I want to meet them, well, I'll go meet somebody and have a coffee. You know.
Yeah, and I imagine, obviously, when you were building it initially, you know, work from home wasn't really a thing. So, you know, to capitalize on that situation, I bet it's been phenomenal for a marketing point of view as well. Ideal.
Yes, it's starting to move that sort of way, really. I mean, sort of, but by the time we got to market, sort of like fully to market, we were in second lockdown, really. Sort of, so we'd lost a little bit of it, sort of the initial. But that's not sort of. But people are now looking at it from a perspective of going, well, longer term, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to be in the car for like an hour a day?
Yeah.
So half an hour there, half an hour back, if you're lucky.
I think it's the flexibility, isn't it? It's I wondered actually. I saw there's always polls on LinkedIn, isn't there, about work from home? But I saw one yesterday, and I've not seen one in a few months, who asked the question. There's quite a few thousand votes, and it actually surprised me, because I thought people would probably start transitioning back to the office. I have to force myself to work from home, because when I do, I'm more productive. Now, if I do a day a week, it works. But I like being in office. But actually, I thought more people becoming wanting to come back, but I think it was 8% wanting to be 100% office based, and then it was a nice split between work from home 100% time or flexibility. I think flexibility is superb. I think that's perfect. I think that's the thing.
I mean, the one bit. I mean, I didn't probably hear from. Obviously, I'm in one of our pods now.
Yeah.
You know, and the big advantage is the house is there.
Yeah.
There's all the noise in the house and going on TV and all that stuff going on as happens in school holidays.
Yeah.
But I'm at work. You know, sort of.
Perfect mix that.
Dip into that.
Yeah.
You know, sort of. Whereas if you're working from a room in the house, you can't avoid getting drawn in, sort of
kids flying in, all sorts. So I'd sort of mastered a few videos I did over COVID. I was interviewing. I just had to see my hand do that and push the youngest out of the way. It's
but, exactly. You know, so that's that. So the big advantage is so obviously with the pods or the garden rooms where people work from the garden, you get the best of both worlds, really. Because you commute only 5 seconds, but at the same time it's still
different
environment, quiet working environment. I'm not getting dad or whatever, you know. Or can you just fix the washing machine? Or can you just bring this off? I can just do it, but I'll do it after this meeting.
Yeah, I was looking at the website thinking, I could just see one of those bottom of my garden. If I move the trampoline, but it's it'll take some grafting, I think, from the wife. But no, I think they look fantastic. And how was in terms of manufacturing? Because obviously, you know, all my clients and everyone listening was manufacturers or from that world. How was that process? Because obviously, going from where you came from, suddenly I imagine dealing with supply chains and suppliers and the complexity of that, and still as now. I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, that was probably the hardest. Bear in mind, I've come from a systems computery, understanding big companies or sort of media. I've worked SMEs, I've worked large companies. So going from that, if you like, sort of non-product, non-people
things in your hands more, yeah.
and I knew nothing about plastic.
Yeah.
I've never really worked in the plastics industry, so I knew nothing about plastic. I knew nothing about tooling.
Yep.
I knew nothing about that sort of side of things. I knew a little bit about supply chain, sort of the components that we need to sort of go into it, but it was like sort of, so we had to sort of find somebody who can design it in the right way. And that was a journey. Then we had to find somebody in the UK that could manufacture for us in extrusion. That was a really tough journey. That's why it's sort of we lost probably 9-12 months on that.
And that was in the UK, so that's all.
Because we wanted to do it in the UK.
Great.
It had to be extrusion. It had to be a certain standard. And we sort of found, and actually, sort of the person who sort of came to Dragon's Den with me, Alan Watts. Alan's in sort of, we took on sort of this company called E3 Design, industrial designers in Newburn up in West Newcastle. And they took some sweat equity and sort of they got almost gone around the country sort of, can you make this thing? Can you do this thing? No, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. And then we finally found some Alan Watts. Sort of, he said, I can do it, but I've got to change to do it this sort of way. And went for the meeting and said, this is what we're going to do with it. And he went, fantastic. He says, they've been trying to build buildings out of plastic for years. So us doing it with L shapes. He went, this will work. And then from that, it was like sort of, I still at that point didn't have the expertise to answer the real technical questions on Dragon's Den. So I said, Alan, look, if I can wangle it, can you come on with me? And then you can deal with a little bit on the technical side. He went, great, yeah, I'll come on with you. So even though Alan's not a shareholder in the company, he is integral.
Absolutely.
They're integral to our supply chain.
And he explained it very coherently and very calmly. And I think the pictures when people are panicking that they can resonate with more. So no, that's I love that. And have you made, in terms of since the journey there, has it been a case of hiring staff? Anyone to help with the journey?
So we have trying to have me up now. I mean, not a huge amount of staff, just 7 staff. Because part of our model is, yes, whilst we install, what we're looking to do is to really expand and grow. We don't want to be assembling. The system's very simple. So there might be a certain degree of self-assembly, but we believe that the way to move it forward is to have working conjunction, like partnerships with the likes of windows, people, UPVC window installers, landscapers, that sort of thing. People who can work a power drill. Because we're doing screwing things together. That's what you do. So we don't want to do a job in Cornwall, for example. So by the time you've got in the van and driven down there, driven back, you've lost all that time. So what we want to do is effectively franchise our partnership out with different people in different areas.
I like that. It works.
Because the one thing that we hate transporting is glass. Glass for windows and doors is horrible. Horrible to transport. So if we work with a window installer, for example, we send the building all flat packed to site, and then they arrive with the windows and doors and the glass, and they just sort of with that they've made. So they're getting the assembly fee and they're getting the windows and door fee. Which sort of we don't make money. We don't really make our money from windows and doors. We make it from our system. And what that does is it makes it much more attractive to A, UK, but B, from a I mean, we're already getting inquiries from Holland, France, that sort of thing, and we're sort of saying, look, yes, we'll send you the system down there, but we don't want to be transporting with glass.
Glass everywhere,
Glass everywhere. Glass is awful stuff, Well, it's great stuff, but it's horrible to transport. So that will enable us to concentrate on sort of fulfilling orders in the Northeast ourselves, but in reality, to grow it hugely, which is the plan for 2023 from 2024, to be purely manufacturers and fabricators, put it on the back of a van, on a 4-pallet, or a 4-section pallet, send it down there, and somebody else builds it, and let the transport company do what they do best. Let us do what we do best, which is fabricate and manufacture.
Good solid business plan, excellent stuff. And obviously, this is a management podcast, if you like. I mean, how have you found the management side to it all? Because we from, like we mentioned right at the off, I think part of the stress and the pressure is when you've got other people with you on the journey and that management of it. So how do you find that aspect of it all?
Can be quite tough at times. I mean, we've taken risks on people with that have luckily all paid off so far.
Yeah.
I mean, our marketing sort of gentleman, Alex Taylor,
Yeah.
he after Dragon's Den sort of got a phone call sort of saying, I just love what you do. I'd like to come work
really?
for you. Yeah, and what he did was to he said, I'll prove how good I am.
Yeah.
He says, I'll help you with the crowdfunding campaign, for nothing, to prove my worth. And that's what he did, and that's how he got the job.
Yeah.
And
I think once you get people who buy into that, not on the product, but it's the vision, the journey, I think it makes that so much easier, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, that's another thing from this, the various management books that you read. Those first employees are the most important, because they. I mean, okay, culture starts from me, but the point is they're the ones that embed it, and then everybody else comes on board. It just embeds. If you want to sort of create a fair work, because there's in my opinion, there's nobody better for sorting out the problems with the job than the people doing the job.
Absolutely.
As long as you give them the encouragement and to sort of say, I think it can improve by doing this.
Yeah.
It's sort of some ideas you have to tell you, yes, that'll work, no, that won't work, but give people that encouragement, because there is no. I mean, it's an old cliche, but there's no such thing as a bad idea.
And give them that autonomy. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's only bad execution. So what you got to do is sort of say, and have that, that fail. Sort of say, I think you're right, but there's either a cost problem or there's a problem. If you do that, then there's a problem down there with that. It might improve this bit. That bit will suffer. And give people, as far as I can, sort of say, or if this is a problem which is within their realm, just say, look, you guys know what you're doing. Just write it down on a piece of paper. I'm a firm believer that if you can get it down on one side of a piece of paper, then you can solve it. If it goes to like reams and reams of pages, then you haven't solved the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I was losing it. Yeah, I like that.
Summarize it and go, that's the problem. The solution for it is that, and that. The conclusion is that. Right, okay. Thank you. I'm a firm believer in that. I've done too many jobs now, where, and see this whole manual. That's how
Yeah. Absolutely. It sounds that.
I mean that's another reason with our product. We spent that long making it simpler. How can we make it even simpler? The whole thing is, it's now as simple as it can be.
Yes.
And I also say simplicity is really hard. Yeah. To hold something down and chisel away at it and hone it on it. That is a really tough job to do. Finding a complex solution is easy. That's really easy. But finding a simple solution that is effective is really hard.
It's one of it's like all the best inventions, the simple ones, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're the ones. Cat's eyes on the road, and things that you just think, God, I wish I invented that. The simple ones are the absolute ones that are there they've got longevity. And obviously, if you think about what you do, yes, it might be used mostly for work from home pods right now, but it could be anything, can't it? I mean, it could be.
Oh yeah.
It can be for the kids, it can be the kids, a nice room for the kids to play in. It can be all sorts of stuff.
Well, I mean, we know that we can build 2 stories out of it.
Yeah.
We know we can build multi rooms out of it.
Yeah.
It's still usable as a flood defense, would you believe? I mean, our flood defense side. Oh yeah. But how it works as a flood defense is, obviously it's 2 L shapes that go together like that.
Yeah.
Imagine this is the water side and this is the dry side. On the water side, all we do is just drill a series of holes along the profile, so the water can come into the wall, but it can't escape from the other side of the wall. So you're building a wall of water.
Clever minds, that. Yeah.
So it's not changed from its original idea, really. It's just the fact that what we sort of figured out quite early doors is yes, we can build a flood defense out, but not a problem with it whatsoever. But people like to spend things on what they want and not on what they need. So if we say to a homeowner, so we can have a system here which might cost, I don't know, sake of argument, $3,000 that you put up when the flood comes.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to do that. So you sort of say, well, okay, you can have a garden room, which might be say $8,000.
Uh-huh.
They'll buy the garden room.
Yes.
They won't buy the flood because they don't because the garden room's like sort of part of their life and it's part of their.
They'll see the investment there. Yeah.
Whereas the flood defence is something that they need only at certain parts, and they almost resent.
Yes.
Spending money on
If
that.
they need that, they'll need that yesterday, basically.
Correct. Yeah. So and it's very immediate. We're trying to hit a certain market, which is sort of I'm selling to a consumer or to a company, and it's a yes no decision. It's quite quick.
Yeah.
And so they either like it or they don't like it.
Yeah.
But sort of price, build style, whatever it happens to be, sort of it's a yes no decision. Whereas a flood for our flood defence system, realistically, we've got to go through a lot of accreditation for it, a hell of a lot of accreditation for water defences. Number one. Number two, the people who are going to be buying it really are going to be Environment Agency, councils, etc. And they've got a long lead time. In reality, to get that product to get that particular use of product to market, it's going to take 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating. No, look, I've really enjoyed this, Gary. It's been really good. It's been really fascinating to dig into the journey. I find it unbelievable. You should be incredibly proud of what you've done. I mean, do you ever sit and reflect and think how far you've come and what you've built? Sometimes it's just go, isn't it? When this situation.
Go. To be honest, I spend more time worrying, going, oh, well, what about next? I am quite a worrier, and sometimes you got to sit back and go, I mean, obviously it was the anniversary of being on Dragon's Den in July, and I almost feel like we haven't come anywhere.
Because you don't just sit and reflect. Yeah.
But in reality, when you look at it, you go, well, hang on. In that 12-month period, we did the Dragon's Den, we did the crowdfund, we sort of set up a factory, we taken on employees, we're selling products, and you go, well, actually, we've come out a long way, 12 months. But to me, it just feels like a blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's on to next, isn't it? On to next every time.
I haven't got time to look back. Yeah. Perhaps I should do. And that was a little bit of a reflection for about probably half an hour, and then it's like right.
Next one again.
Next.
Yeah. Was I mean, working with Dragons, I mean, has it been a helping hand having mentors, I guess, of that element?
Mentors. There's not a lot of time to sort of spend with people. I mean, we've had probably more mentoring really and help from. We've been really lucky with various Northeast agencies. They've been really good.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some really good experiences. I won't sort of pick particular agencies, but yeah, we've been really positive as a rule. I do find the Northeast, as a rule, I mean, no organisation is perfect, but as a rule, I sort of find the various LEPs and what have you are very can do. They're very want to get things going, get things moving. Which. When I speak to I speak to Alan Watts at RAM. They're down in the West Midlands area.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near as dynamic in what they're trying to do. It's almost like West Midlands. Yeah, we're engineering. It ticks over okay. Whereas up here, it's like we've had to go through so many huge changes. Obviously, transition from shipbuilding and coal. Yeah, big change. Obviously, the large companies like your ICIs might be moving on and changing.
Yeah.
So. That whole change culture is quite.
People stick together, don't they? Such a community up here, and I think even more so over COVID, the amount of networking, the amount of people sticking together, and I think it was huge for businesses to learn from each other. You're right. I think it's a very different region to any region in the UK for things like that. I think it's superb.
And that's what I think. It is quite obviously the Freeport in Teesside. I don't want to get too political, but that's overall it's a good thing. Yeah. I can understand some people on Tyneside look at it going, well, why didn't we get to be a Freeport? You can completely get that. To me, there was a for both of them getting the ring.
Of course, it was. Yeah, exactly. I got the airport. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's like I do think that when you get more, like I said, I'm trying to avoid getting too political. When you get more, it's almost apolitical, people from the business environment going, okay, right, sort of like local mayors who really are hammering and pushing their area. Obviously, the likes of Andy Burnham in Manchester's really strong on doing what you're sort of pushing Manchester and getting Manchester moving. And the more you have those sort of metro mayors, or what you want to call them, who have a little bit of cash but are really pushing their areas.
Which Teesside does, I think, actually. To be fair, I think Teesside are very good at.
It's trying to sort of push that whole thing. Sort of the more of that, the better, really. Sort of sort of the best people to spend local money are people locally.
Yes,
as a rule. I mean, obviously, like roads, police forces, those sort of things. Sort of they're more national, but there's certain expenditure. It's best being done locally than from Whitehall. You know.
Yeah, completely agree. Excellent. Well, look, I've got a couple of very quick fire questions. I always ask everyone at the end, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There's no point in, I'm not going to ask you this. Hilariously, one of my questions is what is the most innovative technology you've ever implemented? I'm not going to ask you that because your business is based around that. So I'll skip on to the next one. 3 things or 3 words would you say that make up a good leader?
Good leader. Determination, definitely. Sort of. Well, I'll change that word from determination to persistence. I mean, our motto is persistence is omnipotent. What it sort of means is, as long as you work hard, you're going to be okay. Persistence, luck. You do need luck. I'll rephrase that. Made luck.
You got to make one luck. Absolutely.
Positivity. It tends to be internal positivity because sort of like say sort of there's times when you just think I can't do this. But you can't let the world know that you can't do this.
You've got to put the cap on it. 100%. And we haven't got into this, but interestingly, it can be one word, it can be a threat with whatever you think. What's more important to you, the academic route or on the job learning, would you say?
It's going to be a hybrid. I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think it's I do like the idea behind the new technical levels. I think you could have, otherwise you sort of, how do you get new ways of thinking? So academia is great, but technical is more important to me. If I had to choose one or the other, I'd have to stay on the job. But there is a place for new learning, new ways of doing things.
Excellent. Love that. Perfect. And final question: if you could go back the first day you managed someone, so first day you were a manager, however long ago that was, what advice would you give yourself? What you know now.
Well, advice I'd say set clear goals. That's sort of, and it's set clear goals. Definitely.
Perfect. Guy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved understand the journey, and I think the products you're making at OGEL are fantastic, and it just seems like you've only just got started, which is exciting.
Definitely.
And then I mean the next couple of years, what we to expect? What's on the agenda?
Let's think. Sort of really, it's growing the garden buildings area. It's moving into flood defence. We want to move into the humanitarian shelters and sort of route, and then replicate the same things in other countries. Really.
Perfect. Replicating scale. Like it. Thank you very much, Guy. Your staff.
Okay. Cheers, Matt.